I'm going to do one little thing before I send you guys off to lunch, which is the future of coaching as we see it. As I said, I'm not Nostradamus, but I see some of this happening, and some are more purely predictive. Number one is there's been a big shift from therapy to coaching. We see a lot of therapists training with us through Animas, retraining as coaches. They've been psychodynamic therapists, or they've been CBT therapists, and they're retraining as coaches because that's where the energy is shifting in the marketplace. Integration of practices. I really believe that these labels, these kind of slightly false labels, will start to disappear. The idea you are a psychotherapist or a coach or a counsellor, I think we're going to those labels will start to disappear a little bit, and there can be more of a blending of skills. And I suspect what will happen is you'll find people integrating a number of practices into a holistic approach to human change, which is uniquely their own. We've got one guy called Sudhir Daya. His company is called integratedhealth.com. And he's a Reiki practitioner, a psychotherapist, a coach. I mean, he does so many things, doesn't he, Karen? I mean, as well as trapeze, exactly. I mean, just an interesting guy who's just brought everything that makes him who he is into his own personal practice.
Portfolio career.
Well, yes, but more than that, because he's not like separating it. Yeah, it's like an integrated. Totally. He doesn't say I'm a coach. He says I'm Sudhir, and these are all the things I do. Then there's the rise of emotional intelligence. I was with a guy called Peter Hawkins recently, who is really the founding father of coaching supervision. And he said he feels the greatest benefit coaching's had to the world is how we've made emotional intelligence a core part of how business is done. I think that's really interesting. He's not saying it's there, it's finished, but he believes the biggest difference coaches have made to the world is how organizations have had to address emotional intelligence. And I think that's a fascinating idea that we as a profession have shifted corporations to start thinking about emotional intelligence. I think it's really interesting, and I like it. I think it's true. The other thing I think about this, I'm not sure if it comes up next, is that when the robots take over and when artificial intelligence does everything, what's going to be left for being human, or what's going to be left for human beings is being human. In other words, the jobs that are really left are the things that no machine can do because the job itself is being human. Counselling, therapy, all these things, coaching, they're going to be what's left. Emotional intelligence is what's going to be left for us when all the other stuff is taken over by AI, which it will be. Because, what's that? It is, isn't it? It's robot proof because you know, even if you program a computer to ask the right questions, you know it doesn't care about the answers. That's the difference. I mean, somebody mentioned empathy earlier. Until they make computers actually feel empathy and you care that they feel empathy, you can't replace a human with a computer in this profession or similar professions. You just can't. Next up is the emergence of spiritual intelligence. I think this has become a bigger part of coaching over the coming years, is the transpersonal dimension to coaching, and also people trying to tune into what does life mean for them at the bigger level than simply what does their current lived life mean. This was a phrase I heard recently which I really liked, which was from IQ to WeQ. Again, that was Peter Hawkins, and he said it just in passing. I was like, Peter, I like that. You know, we've moved from IQ, and then we went to EQ, and then we went from SQ, which is spiritual quotient. He came up with WeQ, which is this notion of us as a community, and the shift in how we think about our impact on the world is towards more communitarian than individual. That's interesting because you also see the rise of people like Trump and so on as being like, well, that doesn't make sense. But it's the tension, it's the pulling from both directions that makes this so fascinating. AI and robotics leading to uniquely human work. I think personal development itself is going to become mainstream. You know, increasingly so over the last 10, 20 years, you've seen this, social media, all that stuff. We start to realize that growing ourselves as human beings is an important part of our journey. I think that's going to be the norm rather than what's left for the weirdos like us. I think that will just be the norm eventually. And finally, I put there new groups within coaching. What I mean by that is that I think there are going to be certain pockets where coaching doesn't yet exist, where it will start to become very dominant, like coaching for millennials. I think it's going to be very, very big. I think coaching for social impact is going to be very big. So I think there's going to be, I don't know all of them, but I just think that we're going to move coaching out of the boardroom in a very substantial way into other areas of life. You know, life coaching has been a great job of taking coaching out of the boardroom. I think there's going to be a more programmatic approach to coaching coming out of the boardroom, which is social impact. It's going to be community, it's going to be education, it's going to be universities, all this kind of stuff. I think coaching is going to shift itself away from leadership and management and in a significant way make a big difference. So that's what I see as the future.